Hey there, athletes. Coach John Ferry here from Team Wilpers. Excited, as always, to welcome you to our Week 2 athlete briefing here for the Fall Run Challenge of 2024. A huge congratulations to those of you who completed your Week 1 20-minute distance test in this previous week. You certainly set the stage for yourself here in these 6 weeks to follow. So big congrats, especially if you are a kind of first-time participant at that very exciting experiment. While we're at it, Team Wilpers had a great representation in Berlin this past week, so a very special congratulations to everyone over there who went and crushed their marathon or big goal fall race in Berlin. Special cheers to you. Special thanks to Karina and Rob Lutner for carrying the Team Wilpers cheer and enthusiasm abroad and organizing that meetup over there. Thank you very much for bringing everyone together in Berlin. Speaking of which, the Team Wilpers Roadshow continues next to Chicago next weekend. So we'll be there for events surrounding the Chicago Marathon and 5K. So it's going to be a little meet and greet at Illuminati's on Friday at 4 p.m. Our shakeout run for the marathon post the 5K Saturday morning around 8:45 at Stan's Donuts. And then some post-race libations, whether you ran, cheered, or watched at home on TV around 5 p.m. on Sunday evening. So make sure to try to get out. We would love to see as many of you as possible in Chicago. Just a little reminder in New York City Marathon fast approaching as well. We're gonna have a Friday morning shakeout run in advance of that Sunday race because there's kind of a 5K in the park on Saturday. So always for New York City is our Friday morning shakeout run. A little bit of housekeeping here on our current challenges. We're coming to the end of week 1. You know what time it is. It's time to get into that web portal if you have not done so already and check those boxes claiming that you have done the workout. As much as anything, completing a 100% completion percentage is absolutely the best way to put yourself in a position to be successful. So make sure to go in, keep yourself accountable to chasing that 100% completion percentage. Little note, I know there was some confusion during the week on finding strength training, being able to see it. So make sure to use that kind of drop down at the top of your web page under kind of, for me, it'd be John's training kind of tab, and that'll toggle you into your fall run strength challenge designed to pair with your fall run challenge. Now let's jump into our week 2 workout. So we're starting week 2 with an interval run. So this is going to be a mixed pace interval workout here. Faster the pace, shorter the interval. A little bit lower the pace, a little bit longer the interval. Just FYI, to those that have already heard some grumblings, lovable grumblings, across the board, these intervals are quite short for their corresponding pace zone, meaning that none of you should have any problem executing this workout as written at a very high level. We won't go in any deeper than that on that. But there's a lot of moving around in this workout by design. I would say workouts like this with a lot of disparity in paces, for me, are really engaging mentally, tend to fly by. So hopefully you find that as well, and it's a really fun and engaging workout. The real goal of this workout, well, one of a couple here, as well as kind of my workout tip for this workout, is that it's really important to make sure you pace this workout appropriately. The way that this workout that's not designed to be super hard can become super hard is if you overshoot those paces, especially on some of the lighter intervals, some of those VO2 max intervals. If you kind of take it all the way to the limit, it's going to make it a little bit harder as you get deeper into the workout. You pace this thing very appropriately, and you should have plenty of kind of pop and gas in the tank towards the end of this workout to continue executing at a very high level there. So it's a great opportunity to work out like this with these kind of multiple mixed paces in here to try to kind of work on finding and holding your pace zone very appropriately at different paces. And these are going to be paces that break out really all the way from the 5K to the half marathon within this one workout. So you kind of hopefully start to get those different pace zones into your body so that you can kind of find them in a hurry when the time is right. Run number 2. Short speed intervals. So it's going to be a workout that's VO2 max focused, but similar to workout number 1 or run number 1, the workout intervals are quite short in comparison to what you would think about for like a VO2 max style of workout focused on really like drilling VO2 max. So in essence, what we're really trying to do here is touch on some above threshold paces. So some paces that you might be using and running at for 5K to 5 mile distances, but without really pushing them too hard for too long. So what we want to get out of this here is some experience in the pace zone. So especially as we come into the end of a lot of people's endurance cycles, this might be some paces that you haven't been working on recently or haven't been working on consistently or haven't been working on ever, which is also fine. That means there's a huge upside there. So what we're also looking for are some improvements in economy and efficiency and some power generation and speed. So actually some very similar stuff to when we start to think about hills, everyone's favorite, some of the hill workouts, that efficiency, that power, that speed, the turnover. You can get that as well on kind of short distance. And in essence, you take away the incline as resistance, add a little bit of pace resistance, but we're going to work in relatively short intervals here. So similarly, super valuable when it comes to cross training or training for 5Ks and moving back to longer distances as well, is kind of finding some of that power, efficiency, turnover, etc. here in these short distance workouts. So hopefully you're going to be able to get a little bit of pop, a little bit of speed into this workout without being overly taxed by the end of it. So short intervals, short distance speed workout. Finishing the week out, of course, with our long run to end the week. This always wants to feel easy, finish easy throughout. That is our long run here and our endurance run from the week. We're gonna move forward into our questions that came up via the group this week, and we're gonna start with any tips on how to get out of your head if your race isn't going as you hoped. And so unfortunately, this is a situation that we've probably all been in at one point or another. And so my best recommendation is going to be to backtrack it a little bit and really think about kind of a goal setting in advance of moving into that race. And so for my main goal for a lot of races is simply to finish that race. And I usually feel pretty good about that one. So that one's always kind of my back burner if I'm running short of goals. But after that, I'll obviously have my A race goal. And my A race goal is usually the goal that I've kind of planned out. It might not be my stretch goal, which might kind of be my A plus if things are feeling amazing and I take a little bit further. But my A goal is what I really planned for and plan to kind of find the pace and execute from the starting line. That's my A goal. But I will definitely have a B goal because not every day is perfect and those B goals are important. So if things aren't going well and I might need to pivot in my race to kind of my B goal, I already kind of know what that is. And that's going to be my plan to maybe try to salvage the day a little bit, maybe walk away with something that wasn't what I hoped for, but I still, felt really good about. And that B goal is going to be really different based upon your race distance. If you are trying to pivot in the marathon, it's going to be awfully different than if you're trying to pivot halfway through the 5K where the race is going to be done in just a little bit. So just keep that in mind when making that B goal initially, is that you have to kind of be a little bit open, but very specific for the race distance of what that is. And then I'll also have usually a C goal, which is my race plan has failed, my pivot has failed, and what do I need to do to really salvage that day and walk away with an enjoyable experience? So that's going to be my C goal right before I get to my D goal, which is literally drag myself across the finish line. But C goal is an important one for me because I've been in that situation, unfortunately, multiple times, and it's how to try to salvage a good day when everything else has failed. And the kicker is not to wait till in the moment. You need to identify those things in advance of the race so that you're ready to kind of make those mental pivots as well as physical pivots in the middle of your event and walk away having a nice time. So hopefully some of those things will kind of help. This is absolutely the time going into a lot of people's main events to start thinking about what those A goals, B goals, and C goals are, and make sure to take them with you to the starting line. Our next question here was suggestions on how to modify the VO2 max workout this week for those who raced last weekend. And I wish I'd gotten to this question earlier in the day and asked for a little more specifics in terms of which race And what distance was raced last weekend? Because it's going to be everyone's least favorite answer, which is it depends. It depends a lot, however, in this scenario here. And what it depends on the race, and it depends upon your training history and experience with that race distance. So pretty much for all runners, if you raced the marathon last weekend, you should not be training at all this week. You should be on the couch with ice cream, watching movies until at earliest of next week. However, if you raced a 5K, you might not need to modify the week at all, especially if you've been training at a very high level. That's not a long race for you. If that's something you knock out routinely, that's just going to be part of your training block, and then you're right back into it this week. So a lot of disparity here. So I thought that maybe the best way to answer this was kind of talk about my return to play protocol, if you will, which is sort of a 3-step process. And this is what I would use for people. It's going to be coming back from key races, but it's also going to be coming back from illness, coming back from injury, and coming back in after key races. So step 1 is rest and recover. This cannot be rushed. It takes how long it takes. And for certain races, it might be multiple weeks. For example, for the marathon, in my opinion, it takes a better part of 3 weeks to be fully recovered. I urge runners to take 2 weeks off. A lot of times they'll give me 1 week, and then week 2 is very piddly of just trying to get some volume back in again. But once again, on the flip side, 5K might be fine later that day. Might not even take that long. A lot of people I know will finish a 5K, go out, continue the rest of their long run. Just depends upon their training history. But step 2, once you have rested and recovered and are genuinely, not mentally, but genuinely physically ready to get back to training, is return to previous peak volume, but at easy pace only. And I would say, I like to think about this as a reverse taper, if you will. So if you took a week off to kind of rest up and taper into that race, it should take about a week to kind of move back to full volume at easy pace. If you did a 2-week taper, if you did a 3-week taper, that's the amount of time that I want an athlete to spend at easy pace, returning to their volume and get back to peak volume. Once again, all at easy pace. Once we return to peak volume, we move on to step 3, which is to slowly start to add intensity back into the week. So once again, for a marathon, this could be a 3-4 week kind of phase back in to get intensity back in. For a 5K, this could be maybe half a week to a week to try to come back from that effort, kind of revamp and get back into it. Just depends upon what it took out of you, what the duration of the race is, and in essence, making sure that you're being careful and thoughtful about your return to play. So hopefully that makes sense, and hopefully it applies to your race. Our next question here was, this is my first challenge, and even during my easy pace for day 2, my heart rate stays high. Other than continuing to train at easy pace, what can I do to lower my heart rate while running? I followed day 2 to a T based on my paces, and my heart rate was in zone 3 or 4 the whole time. So DV Mancini already hopped in, gave some good suggestions here, but I'll try to color in the gaps as best as possible. And so there's almost nothing you're going to do that's going to lower your heart rate while running. Very, very little to bring your heart rate down. You can slow down, and that might help. And it might not, depending upon even what part of the run you're at. So overall, I would say kind of don't worry about this too much. And we're going to talk about why. And why that is what you're really trying to achieve isn't to lower your heart rate while maintaining the same pace. You're trying to achieve running faster while maintaining the same heart rate. My example here is if I can run 5 miles in 45 minutes at 150 beats a minute, that's obviously more efficient than if I can run 4.5 miles in 45 minutes at 150 beats a minute. That's what we're going for. The heart rate, my pace has changed. My heart rate has not moved at all. I've just got more efficient at the same heart rate there. So as some have heard me undoubtedly talk about in the past, heart rate is an incredibly tricky metric to track. However, it can be a very good one. However, in order to make it worth your time at all, I would say there are 2 things that you must do. The first would be, in order to establish proper heart rate ranges, You must either be lab tested or field tested. And you can do the field test on your own, but the auto-generated heart rate ranges and heart rate equations of, blank 220 minus age or, whatever it is, they just simply aren't accurate. They don't apply to all people. They don't apply to all genders. They don't apply to you based upon your medical history, etc. They were built to be general, and they're at best somewhat close to accurate for someone. So you've got to do these tests. And then the big thing that it's going to be contingent on as well, which is going to be part of kind of the number 2 thing that you must do, is that if you're pulling HR from a wrist-based device, it's not worth looking at. What we know is that it's not accurate. It doesn't matter how good the watch is. It doesn't matter if you always take your HR on the same device that's always HR-based. It's just not accurate. The heart rate is too manipulatable, too variable to be looking at with that kind of plus or minus discrepancy. So it's not accurate. So for proper heart rate data, when you're either doing lab tests, when you're doing an HR field test, which, like I said, it's not so hard to do, can be done, but you have to be, I would urge any athlete of mine that I was working with who wanted to do this to use the chest strap. And there are pros and cons of the chest strap in terms of general comfort and fit, but that's going to be your most accurate HR gauge. Otherwise, there are some pretty decent bicep straps at this moment to get really good readings, but HR is just not going to be one of those things that's a viable option if you're really interested in looking at heart rate. However, overall, outside of just needing to find that really accurate data, I would urge 99% of runners to ignore their HR altogether and instead focus on nice light breathing, light quick turnover, and an overall easy effort. In my opinion, at least, that's going to set people up to be significantly more successful and have a lot more enjoyable run than really trying to concentrate and delve into HR, which, as I mentioned, is a tough metric to track and very difficult to manipulate in the moment. Well, friends, that is all here for week 2. So thanks as always for joining. Have an incredible week 2. Can't wait to see you back here soon for our week 3 briefing. Have a great night.